So today, the plan, what we're hoping for, we need to find snow. And the reason why we need snow today is because there's a specific set of shots on our list that we got to capture. My friend Elle was working on a short film and it was shot in snow. And she needs some pickup shots done, but there's no longer snow in her location. So we're trying to help out and we're gonna capture these plates that can actually later be used on a virtual set to recreate moments to help pull together the pieces of her story. The snow is melting pretty rapidly in British Columbia, so we're gonna be hunting it down and try to find some great spots where we can actually get a specific set of shots that we have in mind. We're doing some quick lens and camera tests just to kind of dial things in before we take off here. It's pretty typical with a shoot like this that we'll rent equipment and only get it the day before. So usually we are just testing our equipment right up to when we're actually going to be shooting. And I'm excited about the results that we're getting. I'm assuming if you're watching a video on shooting with ProRes RAW, you're already intrigued by the benefits that it can offer and the flexibility in the post side of things. And one of those considerations for us that's really important is just knowing the base ISO values of your camera, because we're bypassing the internal noise reduction and we're getting that straight data right from the sensor. We want to know how we can capture it best out of the camera into RAW. So that way you get as consistent of a noise profile as possible, because there will be a denoising process required for a lot of ProRes RAW shooting, again, depending on what ISO you're at. Because we're not just recording to the internal media of the camera, we're now outputting and we've got this extra system of recording going on. There's some more pieces to look after, more batteries, more SSDs. And so having systems in place for managing that when you actually get out there to shoot helps you move a lot quicker. So that way you're not second guessing. So having a clear and concise system that you can follow and the team that you're working with understands helps you move a lot quicker and removes the second guessing and the potential for catastrophic mistakes while you're out there shooting. One of the best pieces of advice I got from a cinematographer when I was kind of starting out my filmmaking career was investing in my own monitor that I could load LUTs onto. Because oftentimes we end up using a lot of different camera systems and the way that those images behave are different, and it can be pretty surprising when you think you're getting an image on the back of a screen and then you go to your computer later and it looks quite a bit different. So actually being able to load a LUT on and see your image slightly stylized to what it might be like in the finished product just inspires a lot of confidence. It gives you a better sense of what your frame actually feels like. If you would have told me 7 years ago that the monitors that used to hold LUTs would now be able to also record RAW into the monitor itself, that kind of would have blown my mind a little bit. But that's the state that things are at right now. We've got these really small, ridiculously powerful cameras that can record amazing images, and the manufacturers are finally giving us what we need over HDMI, so that way we can record it in RAW to a monitor. Like, just taking a moment to appreciate that that's what we're able to use as tools these days is I don't know, I'm just excited about that, because the more data and latitude that we can capture in our image as we're actually capturing it means it's going to be even more flexible when we get back to the studio and it's time to edit this stuff. We're running two main camera systems today. We're running a Sony FX3 on the gimbal, doing RAW to the Ninja V. We've got a Sony A7S III that's doing the main behind the scenes filming, and we've got an S1H that's going to do the 5.9K beautiful plates. And we're going to be going pretty light. We only have a few lenses per camera, batteries to go around. Once we get onto location, we'll actually go through some of the more monitor stuff and how to make sure you're capturing the signal correctly, but I think it's time to take off. Always the first shots you're getting when you're up in the helicopter are just so exhilarating. I just want to keep rolling on everything. Wow. Not a bad place to call home. Whoa, ow. Come on, get in the shadow. There it is. Oh, there it is. This spot's fantastic. One thing that really helps the usability of shooting with it, especially when we're moving between camera systems, is just nailing down how you want to actually rig to your camera. Atomos has these little quick release plates, so you can just pop the monitor off with the press of a button. That to me makes it just a lot quicker, so I'm not fiddling with thumb screws. That thumb screws are just the bane of my existence, and having a nice solid lock-on point like that makes changing cameras a lot less of a struggle. There's a really nice river section up there that we're gonna film some stuff, and there's a lot of shadow and highlights, so hopefully it will give us a good use test case of some dynamic range that we're able to get, and also highlight recovery. And then maybe we'll talk about just making sure that we're exposing things properly so we don't lose those highlights to begin with. So one of the big things I keep in mind when recording to RAW is actually making sure the data that I think I'm capturing, I'm actually capturing. Under the monitoring tools, they have various modes for checking your exposure and transforming the raw signal that's coming through the cable to how you see it on the display. So you've got a native mode where you can just see it raw, a Rec 709 transform, HLG, a PQ, and then a LUT. So LUTs are typically what I like to do for setting in the look, but when I'm nervous about exposure, using the PQ mode for really making sure that full dynamic range is getting in the image. Going off the monitor, setting it basically what I see with my eyes in nature, making it look similar to that on the back of the display actually gets you most of the way there. And then as a fail-safe, having the waveform open to just make sure none of those highlights are clipping off. When you're in the PQ mode, you do see your full IRE values that the raw signal is getting you. So everything that's on that waveform, you're getting in the file, which also means if you push it too far past, it's gone. So I'm very cautious about clipping off at the top of that waveform, because if I clip those out, they're not in the file, and even though it's raw, you can't pull those back. A good rule of thumb for a scene like this, especially when there's a lot of dynamic range going on, is that you don't want to squish the image too down in the shadows. Depending on what base ISO you're going to set up for whatever camera you're working with, you want to work from there for then exposing it the best that you can for maintaining the lowest noise in the raw file. So what I like to do is bring that exposure up right on that sweet spot before I start losing my highlights. And what that essentially gives us is a lot of latitude to move that image back down into the shadows. And when you spread that curve out, you're gonna get a lot of detail in the shadows and not a lot of noise. There's honestly just so many exposure checking tools built into the monitor itself that once you get a handle on how to use them to get the kind of image that you want, it gives you more confidence to just really press into that when you're shooting. And I do appreciate that extra level of certainty that I've got the shot. So we're moving pretty quick today from spot to spot. It's worth noting that yes, if you sit down and you fine tune your image to squeeze the best possible dynamic range out of it, you can really spend the time to do it. But then on the other side of it, when you're doing more documentary stuff like what Nick and I normally do with adventure filmmaking, you're moving fast a lot of the time. The people that you're filming aren't always down to wait for you to like hike up and reset a shot. And sometimes, because we're moving fast, you mess things up, and you try not to and you try to get better. But you mess up your white balance, let's say, or maybe your exposure's a little off. And if you're shooting more conservatively with RAW, where your highlights aren't right near the top and you've got it down a little bit, you've just got so much flexibility to work with. Especially when it comes to shooting on different camera systems. When you're getting that raw feed straight from the sensor, it actually makes it quite a bit easier to shot match with the different cameras that you're working with. So you're not as limited on the color science of each individual camera, which ends up making it a lot easier in post when everything just kind of works together. Honestly, when we got that shift over from 8-bit codecs to getting 10-bit internally in camera, that felt like a really big win for me, and I was excited to have more latitude with skin tones and a little bit of flexibility with white balance if I didn't nail it. But that jump now from 10-bit to RAW, that's like exponentially more exciting, because you just get that much more to work with. And as a filmmaker and someone who likes moving fast, that just enables me to do that better and quicker, all in just a really nice small package that I can move between all the systems. It's makes my life easier for sure.
Oh, that is so cool. Wow.
Okay, so currently we're unpacking all of our stuff because we're gonna get left here. But before we get left, we're gonna do the part that I'm most excited for today, which taking the doors off, and we're gonna do a nice scenic flight around here and try to get some really awesome aerials just with the gimbal and doing some handheld camera work. We're gonna finish unpacking everything here and let's go flying.
Oh, incredible. Wow, that cloud coverage is really coming in clutch right now. Really nice, eh? Towards that water. Oh yeah, this looks amazing. Oh yeah. Okay, we're gonna pull out. Keep trying to get it. Oh, wow. Yeah, keep grabbing it. You got it. Oh, my goodness, Misha. That is some clutch flying. That was so cool. Wow. Oh, my word, that shot. Well, that was nailed. Good job. Man, ProRes RAW, if it was built for anything, it's built for this. Yeah. Yeah, the snow just makes this like such a good example of dynamic range. Yeah. Wow, that looks... There's the money shot. Woo! Nice big mountain reveal. Okay, this is epic too. Thanks for the heads up, buddy. Dude, that was awesome, dude. So good.
And just like that, we are very, very alone out here. I'm telling you, the shots we got on that flight were just so good. We've been going pretty hard since around 4:30 this morning. We've got to eventually get ourselves ready for some stuff that we're going to do this evening, some more campfire, campsite vibe stuff. We're in a pretty great spot to do that, so. Oh man. I'm telling you, the viewers at home, if you're watching a commercial and you're like, man, that's a nice nature shot, look again, because it might be something that we shot here. These shots are awesome. Man, this is beautiful. It's been go, go, go for most of the day. We've just had our first extended stretch of pause as we got camp set up and got the fire going. We're transitioning from some of the daylight stuff we're shooting and getting ready for a night scene that is kind of a critical piece to why we're out here. The mixture of the snow, trees, mountains, getting a fire going. That's pretty mission critical for our shot list here. Having a shot list is very helpful because it can feel like there's a never-ending amount of options, and once you know you get different variants of stuff, it gives you a lot more of a sense of confidence that you're actually walking away with the footage that you need. And our main thing coming up next is a nighttime scene with a fire. So we're doing two things here where we're going to try capture a gorgeous fire plate to be used on a virtual set, and that's really exciting, and it's pretty important that we nail that and do it pretty well. A feature from a usability standpoint that I didn't fully start utilizing till lately, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not, is when you're recording into the Ninja, you can also take advantage of that extra mic input. So on the documentary camera that we're running today for the behind the scenes stuff, we're actually running dual system audio that's recording 2 stereo tracks to the file in ProRes RAW. This is great because it means you don't have to sync up stuff later in your editor. You don't have to deal with dual system sound. And it also just gives you that fail-safe if one of your audio systems starts working. You've just got 2 stereo tracks baked into your file. Also through the headphone port, you can be choosing which audio source you want to be monitoring at a given time. And then you've got the audio levels for both inputs, or however many inputs you're running, right on the display so you can see what's going on. So if your HDMI feed actually has more audio signals over that, you're also getting all of those baked into the ProRes RAW file as individual tracks, which I'm a big fan of when audio gets combined with video in the file. That just, as an editor with documentary stuff, it just makes things so much simpler. So what we've got going on the BTS camera is a wireless lav going into the camera itself, and that sound is coming over the HDMI into the monitor. And then we've got a shotgun mic that's also going into the mic import on the Ninja. Any features that allow me to run less audio equipment in and around a mobile camera setup is a big win. It's great being able to run XLR adapters and all that stuff, but if we can keep a smaller system for getting 2 stereo tracks recorded into our file, or more for that matter, that is really exciting for me when I want to be running fast and filming documentary stuff. Okay, morning here at camp has been very lovely. Last night was a big thing to check off for us, getting that fire scene nailed. And because the helicopter can't fly out and get us at nighttime, that's what necessitates camping out here overnight, which I'm certainly not going to argue with. We've accomplished a massive section of our shot list, reviewing footage on the monitor. I'm quite pleased with how things are working out. So one thing that I really appreciate now, having gotten to know the Ninja so well over the years, is that it makes my shooting experience super consistent across each camera platform that I'm using. I'm not always using the same cameras. The S1H, the FX3, this is the first shoot that I've ever used these cameras, and they were rentals, so they're coming in right before the shoot. I don't have time to do all these tests, and if I'm shooting internally on them, I have to really get to know how they behave internally and what that image then looks like. But when using the Ninja 5 and I'm getting that raw signal straight out of the camera, I can be super confident that what I'm monitoring on the camera, I can be so sure that I'm capturing it in a way that I'm going to be really happy with in post. And that level of confidence that can come through a monitor camera system that can move through the different flavors, that is just a massive strength to the raw workflow that just takes away that guessing game and just makes you confident that you're getting what you need. Now it's a matter of getting back home, getting this precious footage backed up, and it's time for post. Here's our ticket out of here.